I would rather be first and hated for an accurate take than be late and blend in. And that's where I feel like I've been many times over the years, but in particular, especially when it comes to Chicago Bears general manager Ryan Poles. I have been calling for this team to fire him for quite a while. I have talked frequently about how much he sucks, how he sucks, and all of that. And it's been interesting to see the evolution in the perspective surrounding Ryan Poles, especially as we've gotten through the first couple of weeks here of the 2025 season. And you've gotten to the point now where you've got some fans are trying to say that the Bears are rebuilding and that it's going to take time and this is the ultimate mediocrity copium. That is Bears football mindset personified. Because just think about on the surface how absolutely fucking ridiculous that is to be sitting there and saying in the fourth year of a general manager's reign in the modern NFL with the salary cap structure, etc., that you're still rebuilding or rebuilding again. Just think about how terrible that sounds. Horrible excuse. Ryan Poles is a terrible general manager. Anybody at this point that thinks he isn't is just living a lie. It's an idiotic take to have. It's just idiotic. Until proven otherwise, Ryan Poles is an absolutely awful, terrible, no good general manager for the Chicago Bears. But I think it's really important to understand exactly why that is. So let me give you a detailed breakdown of just how much this piece of crap absolutely sucks. And let's venture all the way back to 2022, and we're going to take a quick look at the first 3 years of his reign, because those are the ones that are the most important and most relevant here. When he was hired by the Bears in January of 2022 to be the team's new general manager, his first decision was to hire Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts, to be his head coach. He didn't take weeks and weeks. He was decisive, and he went for it immediately. The same Matt Eberflus whose defense choked away the last game of the season in 2021 against Jacksonville, that finished that year 16th in total yards allowed, 9th in points allowed. This was not only the guy that Ryan Poles, as new general manager, decided to hire. This was the guy that he rushed to fucking hire. He was never a coordinator with an elite defensive unit, so you gave him the head coaching job anyways, and that's a wise idea. How exactly? And then when you go back in time, the perspective there, you were coming in as a new general manager. The team had just drafted Justin Fields the year before. That has to be the priority, is building around JF1, developing, and see whether or not he could be the guy. And your first thought was to hire a defensive guy. Like, already tells you so much about the man and his philosophy and how stupid it is as a general manager. But then you go into the 2022 free agency cycle. It's hard to point to that and say you were expecting a ton there because the Bears needed to do some work in terms of dead cap. Fucking dead cap Poles, it's the one thing he did was he cleared out the dead cap. Whoop-de-woo, created a ton of cap space on 2022's free agency period. None of the players he signed are still on the roster. It was like Equanimous St. Brown, Byron Pringle, Justin Jones, Al-Qadim Muhammad, Nicholas Morrow, Lucas Patrick. But remember, his top priority, his number one priority, was to go try and sign Larry Ogunjobi away from the Cincinnati Bengals, a defensive tackle, who of course failed the fucking physical. His first priority to build around his young quarterback, Justin Fields, was to go sign a fucking defensive tackle to fit Matt Eberflus' system. How stupid, stupid, stupid. And of course it didn't work. And you look at that year's draft, and now we're into season 4 when it comes to this draft class. This draft class fucking sucks. It sucks. Kyler Gordon is good, but there's always some fucking injury with him. He misses a couple of games a year. Jaquan Brisker is okay, but again, like, plenty of injury history there. Third round pick on a 25-year-old developmental wide receiver out of Tennessee, Velus Jones Jr. Big surprise, he didn't fucking work out. Duh, I wonder why. one of the best picks of his entire regime as general manager was Braxton Jones in the fifth round, the left tackle. And Braxton Jones, let's be clear, absolutely sucks. And everybody drafted after that, the rest of the way, was cut. There were 4 6th-round picks. 3 of them spent on offensive linemen. None of them stuck around long term. Treston Ebner didn't make it long. And then Trenton Gill was drafted in the 7th round as a punter who was such an epic failure that 2 years later they had to spend a 4th rounder on a 27-year-old punter. And then when you look at the scope of this draft, you got to remember they basically traded Khalil Mack for Jaquan Brisker. Oopsie daisies. They drafted 2 straight defensive backs in the 2nd round when the priority should have been to build around Justin Fields. I mentioned Velus Jones Jr. and the epic flop that was. The 4 picks on day 3 offensive linemen, only one of them panned out. That's Braxton, and he stinks. Unbelievable. But King Poles, right? King Poles. Can you believe there were actually people the first couple of years that took pride in saying King Poles? And these are the same motherfuckers, and you know who they are, and they know who they are, that now try to sit there and condescend to other Bears fans. Who the fuck are they to do anything and talk shit to anyone about any goddamn thing? They're fucking morons. So you look at the next year, 2023. Okay, here's where you're pointing to the big things change, right? You're at the top of the pack or near it in terms of available cap space. But instead of, once again, placing the priority on building around your young quarterback and helping him, the priority was overpaying Tremaine Edmonds after fucking trading away Roquan Smith. And then you doubled down on that overinvestment in linebackers by paying TJ Edwards. Now, his contract wasn't nearly as bad as Tremaine. Tremaine Edmonds is the much worse contract. But there you go. He signed Nate Davis. That was his one thing he really did on offense, and that was, of course, a fucking disaster. We all know that. DeMarcus Walker, everybody's like, oh, they really need a pass rush. He goes signs DeMarcus Walker. I'm confused. Like, you needed to address the pass rush, and instead you drafted DeMarcus Walker. That's like a solid guy, a solid base end starter. Never going to be a guy that moves the needle at all. Travis Homer was meh. Like that free agent class, fucking was overpaid and overrated and underdelivered. Big surprise because Ryan Poles is a fucking Twinkie turd. You are what you eat. And he loves to smash them Twinkies and ding-dongs. His A1C levels are in the thousands. But you look back at that draft, a lot of people are going to rip on him because when the Bears traded down out of the top pick with the Panthers and they were sitting there pick 9, they didn't take Jalen Carter. They traded back to take Darnell Wright. I'll actually defend him on that. That was the right pick 100 out of 100 times. Jalen Carter in Chicago would have been a fucking flop and failure. Darnell Wright was the right choice, the right player, the right pick, period. We need to understand that. But you look at the rest of this draft, like, you got to remember the full picture and context. This dumb shit traded away the 33rd overall pick, which, or it wasn't the 32nd overall pick technically, the first pick in round 2 ultimately, for Chase Claypool. Gee, I wonder why an organization that kind of knows what the fuck they're doing in the Pittsburgh Steelers would trade away their wide receiver 3. And you're giving away a top-of-the-heap second-round pick for a team's wide receiver 3! You dumb fucks! And then not getting a first-round pick back in return for Roquan Smith and basically turning Roquan Smith into Jervon Dexter and Noah Sewell. Good work! Waited too long to trade Robert Quinn, remember that one? And only got a late 4th-round pick in return. Oopsie daisies. And when you look at the other players drafted in that draft, I mentioned Jervon Dexter. People try to pretend he's good. He's average at best, and boy, that is at absolute best. He's below average. Stop. Cut the bullshit. Tyreek Stevenson fucking sucks. Zach Pickens is already gone. Tyler Scott's already gone. Roshan, I don't know why the fuck they drafted him if they're never going to give him an opportunity. Noah Sewell's finally getting into the lineup. Terrell Smith, you know, he was actually good, but he just can't stay healthy. But yeah, like, again, no Pro Bowlers drafted. The one saving grace here was taking that number 1 pick and turning it into a big haul. Like, that's the real hallmark here of what he did. But the best that happened with the team that year was they were 7-10. So he goes 3-14, 7-10. Now we go get ready to 2024. He signs Kevin Byard. He still has quite a bit of cap space, right? Kevin Byard, who was released by the Titans, no longer in peak form. You know, with all these running backs of free agency available, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, he said, I got it! DeAndre Swift! Like, that's the level of stupidity we're talking about here. Where the Packers are signing players like Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs who make the All-Pro team and the Pro Bowl, respectively, in their first year with the new team. The Bears fucking signed Kevin Byard and DeAndre fucking Swift. Gave Gerald Everett a 2-year contract. Of course, he was a bum and he was gone after one. Coleman Shelton was their big attempt to address center, the half-ass attempt to do it once again. He was mid and now he's gone. Jonathan Owens was easily their best signing and he's a fucking dime back. And oh, by the way, don't forget, after 2 seasons they said, put him up. Put him up. I'm the offensive coordinator. You can't fire me. I got courage. I know what I'm doing. They fired Gutless Getsy to bring in the wizard Waldron. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, and not ever bothering to think, hey, he was with the Seahawks. He was their offensive coordinator. Pete Carroll's gone. They've got a head coaching opening, and they have no interest in hiring this guy. I know. We'll bring him in as an offensive coordinator. That's absolutely no fucking red flag at all. Waldron was worse than Getsy. Twice the suck and none of the gimmick that I could use to make this misery appealing and entertaining. The fuck here. And then you get to the 2024 draft. He makes the obvious choice, the safe choice, the arguably right choice, and takes Caleb Williams number 1, Rome Odunze at number 9. But then you look at the rest of that draft. Karan Amagaji's taking a flyer on a project in the 3rd round when that offensive line needs significant work. Torrey Taylor, I defended the pick at the time. They did need a punter. It was funny, though, because as soon as I realized, oh, he's fucking 27 years old already, I didn't instantly feel so good about that pick. And then Austin Booker, you know, you could argue was the 3rd best pick in that draft for them, but that's not saying a whole lot. The 2023 draft trade is what paved the way for them to get Caleb Williams. But they traded a 2nd-round pick for Montez Sweat for the right to pay a non-premier edge rusher money. That was stupid. Oh, Montez Sweat made the Pro Bowl in 2023. But half of that season was spent in Washington, was the better half of his season. Cut the bullshit. You've seen the truth about Montez Sweat now. You're paying premier edge rush money to a non-premier edge rusher. And when you look at that draft and you're like, why did they have so few picks? Because Ryan Poles is a fucking moron. He traded a 4th-round pick in that draft away for 1 worthless season of Keenan Allen, a 5th-round pick away for 1 worthless season of Ryan Bates, a 6th-round pick previously for 1 worthless season of Dan Feeney in a previous year, and he traded away a 7th-round pick for 1 worthless season of N'Keal Harry. So let's summarize this. 0 Pro Bowlers drafted in these 3 years between 2022 and 2024. In that 2024 draft, almost the entire second day was ravaged by the fact that he's trading away these valuable picks for guys that stick with the team 1 year and in some cases don't even contribute to the team for 1 year. That's fucking stupid. And you got people trying to defend him like, oh, well, you know, the hit rates on 3rd-round picks is this and it's a lot of misses. Yeah, it's true. And the problem is, he doesn't hit on any of these motherfuckers. What do you not grasp or understand about that? Velus Jones Jr. cut. Zach Pickens cut. Karan Amagaji heading towards cut status. That's 3 straight 3rd-round picks, you dumb dicks. 2 already cut. 1 of them about to fucking be. And you look at the other day 3 picks, it's a big steaming, heaping pile of fucking dog shit. Trading 4 picks in a draft from a day 3 for a bunch of guys that aren't even going to be there more than 1 year and a couple of them who don't even really contribute. It's no fucking surprise when you look at that in the free agency history. You say, oh my God, that's not good. And you're like, yeah, it's fucking awful. Ryan Poles, when you factor in the first 2 games of this season and how terrible that's been, is now 15-38 as a general manager of this team. For context, that winning percentage is now .283. It got worse after last year. What the fuck are we talking about here? And when I say that he's the worst general manager in Chicago Bears history, you get idiots trying to push back with Jerry Angelo. Jerry Angelo, are you fucking kidding me? I'm going to take 2001 out of the equation because it wasn't hired until the summer when you went through the whole headhunting experience, blah, blah, blah. People, I swear to God, just be talking shit and they don't even fuck what they're talking about. So let's go. His first 4 years as general manager, 2002 to 2005. He was 27-37, a .421 winning percentage. I agree that wasn't great. But he hired Lovie Smith before the 2004 season. He drafted Peanut Tillman and Lance Briggs in 2003. He drafted Tommy Harris and Nathan Vasher in 2004. And what do Peanut and Briggs have in common? Multiple-time Pro Bowlers and first-team All-Pros. Tommy Harris, Nathan Vasher, Pro Bowlers in their career. So by the time he got to his 2nd and 3rd draft, he was picking guys round 1, 2, 3, 4. Even with some of the other notable misses that Jerry Angelo fucking had, Ayatollah Angelo at least could identify Pro Bowlers and all pros. And oh, by the way, that 2005 season, kind of his fourth full year at the helm, the team won the fucking division, and the next year they were conference champions. What the fuck are we talking about here? Then a lot of times you'll see Phil Emery brought up. He was 23-25 though in his 3 years as general manager. A lot of people hate Phil Emery so much because he fired Lovie Smith. Ding dong, dumb dicks. It was fucking time after the 2012 season. It was time, believe that. All love to Lovie, but 9 years was enough. But Phil Emery makes trades for all-pro players like Brandon Marshall. He signs Pro Bowlers like Martellus Bennett. He drafts Pro Bowlers like Alshon Jeffrey and Kyle Long and Kyle Fuller and Charles Leno. He was 23-25. He had a 10-6 season under Lovie. Then 8-8 with Trestman in 2013 with a historically awful defense, and they still almost fucking made it to the playoffs and won the division that year. Ryan Poles wishes he could even sniff the skid marks of Phil Emery's tighty whities. And then the other common one, obviously, is Ryan Pace. And this is the closest comparison, especially if you look at their first 3 years of general managers and their overall results. There's not a ton of difference. But of course, Ryan Poles is still fucking worse. Ryan Pace in his first 3 years as general manager from 2015 to 2017 was 15-34. That's not great. But guess what? By the time he got to the next year, 2018, his team was fucking 12-4 and they were division champions. But when you look deeper, you see with Ryan Pace, while he certainly had some draft misses, absolutely those first few years. In 2016, Leonard Floyd didn't make a Pro Bowl, but he was a pretty damn good player. Cody Whitehair did make a Pro Bowl. Jordan Howard did make a Pro Bowl. That was all from one draft class. In 2017, he drafted Eddie Jackson and Tariq Cohen in the same round, in the fourth round, mind you, right? And not only were those guys both Pro Bowlers, they were technically first team All-Pro at some point in their career. And hell, even fucking Mitchell Trubisky, as bad as he was, technically made a Pro Bowl. So he drafted 3 Pro Bowlers out of one draft. Ryan Poles, after 3 years, is sitting at fucking 0. And then he turned around in 2018 and he drafted Roquan Smith. He sees that this team needs a difference maker and they need an edge rusher. He goes and makes a big trade for Khalil Mack. He brought in an Akeem Hicks. Like, the fuck are we talking about here? Ryan Poles isn't sniffing his jock either. Ryan Poles is easily the worst general manager in Chicago Bears history. And in order to talk about him properly, we have to put him in the correct historical context. Not only is Ryan Poles the worst general manager in Chicago Bears history at this point until proven otherwise, and the only way to prove otherwise is to have his team win more, which is something the Bears under Ryan Poles have been incredibly allergic to. There's time to change this narrative, but as it stands right now, this is fact. He's the worst in team history, and by a good margin. And when you look at him, he is easily one of the worst general managers in modern NFL history. And I know some of the names you're going to fucking bring up. Trent Baalke was terrible. Yeah, he was. As the Jaguars GM, though, he was 25-43. That's a .368 winning percentage. Last I checked, that's a lot better than what fucking Ryan Poles' was. And at least Trent Baalke was above 500 in his first tenure as NFL general manager with the 49ers. Trent Baalke sucks, and he clears Ryan Poles easily. What does that say about Ryan Poles? You have some people, certainly you'll bring up a Bruce Allen. It's valid. He was 45-83 in his 9-ish years in charge of the Washington Commanders. That's still a .351 winning percentage. What the fuck are we talking about here? Dave Gettleman is going to be a popular choice, especially his tenure with the Giants. But he was 19-46 there as general manager. That's a .292 winning percentage. That still surpasses fucking Ryan Poles. And at least he drafted a guy like a Saquon Barkley. Just saying. And before that, Dave Gettleman, in his first stop as an NFL general manager, was 51-28 with the Carolina Panthers and won a conference championship. Ryan Poles gets cleared easily by all of those guys. The only one that is even comparable, and so one guy that protects Ryan Poles from being the worst general manager I have seen in the past 25, 30 years of the NFL is Matt Millen. Matt Millen, when he was CEO, de facto general manager, then official general manager from 2001 to 2008, it was god-awful. It was a joke. It was a travesty. It was so many things. He was 31-97. I give him credit for the full 2008 season, even though he was fired after week 3, because it was still his team that year, so you got to ride that out. That's a .242 winning percentage. However, even within that, you go back to his first draft in 2001. Jeff Backus and Donovan Raiola were starters in the league at offensive line for over a decade. Shawn Rogers, and his other second-round pick after Raiola, was a 3-time Pro Bowler. Roy Williams, his first-round pick in 2004, made a Pro Bowl. As much as we laughed about, all these years, and they're sitting there and they're drafting this guy and that guy and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like at the end of the day, yeah, it's funny because they're drafting wide receivers every fucking year, whether it's Charles Rogers or goddamn Roy Williams, and then it's Mike Williams in 2005. But in 2007, he had the courage to do the right thing. He took fucking Calvin Johnson, number 2 overall, and he took a future first ballot Hall of Famer. And even when you go to like the 2008 draft, I think it was Cliff Averill was a mid-round pick. He made a Pro Bowl. Jerome Felton, the fullback, made a Pro Bowl too. So even Matt Millen, as terrible as he was, drafted a Hall of Famer, drafted Pro Bowlers, all things that Ryan Poles couldn't even possibly fucking sniff. Now, sure, granted, Matt Millen is the worst modern NFL GM by a country mile. That is true. But when you think about Ryan Poles and his 3+ years in Chicago, folks, we've got to put it in the right context. We have to acknowledge absolute abject fact. Worst general manager in Chicago Bears history. Point blank period. Until proven otherwise. And his appropriate placing right now, when you look at not just his record, but the context of how did you have all this cap space for multiple years, you were able to stumble into the number 1 overall pick in 2 consecutive drafts, and you're sitting there as a general manager at 15-38, and we're talking about a rebuild in fucking year 4 when you're now on your second head coach. He is dog shit. The only way to change that narrative is win. But until that point, he ranks below a Trent Baalke, he ranks below a Bruce Allen, he ranks below a Dave Gettleman, and he's starting to sniff on the heels of Matt Millen. That's how fucking trash bag Ryan Poles fucking is as Chicago Bears general manager. Period.